I think we're both people that really crave depth and meaningful, thoughtful conversations. Like every time we go to coffee, I feel like we're there for 3 or 4 hours just talking about like deep stuff. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. It's like, hey, do you want to get together to work on this? And we work for 45 minutes, but actually for 2.5 hours, we're just talking.
Yes.
So absolutely.
Welcome to Sessions for the Soul.
I almost said with again.
We just wanted to do a little silly intro for the first one.
Yes. We put in a lot of practice and work into that. So, I mean, it was bound to.
We did.
We had to do it together at least once.
We nailed it.
I think that was great. That was really good.
Well, how surreal that we're doing this.
I know, it's crazy. I feel like a really interesting thing. I was thinking about this today, actually, about how like just when you and I have an idea together, or the way things have just like really organically unfolded over the last 9 months. I don't even know what the timeline is anymore.
Yeah, 9 months, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. It's just so beautiful and also like so. I think surreal is a great word.
Yeah, I agree. Should we tell people about it? Like a little bit about like how this all unfolded?
Yeah. And I mean, where to begin? No. I mean, first of all, I think both of us really just like desired a platform that was more meaningful and like a place to connect with people that wasn't, as surface level as like maybe social media is, or the platforms that we're currently on.
Yeah.
And that's just like, I mean, can you speak more to that?
Yeah, I feel like both of us just over the last 9 months of reconnecting and both being in a position of like running our businesses on social media. I mean, that's like the primary platform for both of us that we run our business on. And so like both being in a situation of like kind of feeling fatigued from like the rat race of social media of like, okay, you get like 3 to 5 seconds, which is insane to like get your message across. And a lot of people aren't even sticking around for that. And so it's like just this endless cycle of trying to like pump out content and keep up with the algorithm and connect with people in like such a quick way. And I think we're both people that really crave depth and like meaningful, thoughtful conversations. Like every time we go to coffee, I feel like we're there for 3 or 4 hours just talking about like deep stuff. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. It's like, hey, do you want to get together to work on this? And we work for 45 minutes, but actually for 2.5 hours, we're just talking.
Yes.
So absolutely. And like, as you were saying that, one of the things I was thinking about is like that 3 to 5 seconds that we have, or like sort of the irony of like going to this place where a lot of people are actually looking to disconnect and like disassociate and sort of like go scroll or go, I think it's so habitual getting on apps is like counterintuitive to our work, because our work is about, deeper connection and growth and learning. And when you're going to this place, this platform that really is not, it doesn't promote that, I guess, is like what's coming to mind. Then there's like this kind of like it's cognitive dissonance in a way of like, wait a second, like, okay, I just post. I think we've both said this before, like the shouting into the void sometimes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's just like, okay, well, I just like really had something like profound, or like I put my heart into this, or I was really vulnerable, and I'm going to put it into the ethers. And sometimes it gets 100 views.
It's just not like it just doesn't have the opportunity to reach people in the same way. And so I feel like podcasting, like creating a space for community, like I feel like when people listen to a podcast and they become like a loyal listener, and like you actually get to form a community, they get to really like connect with us on a deeper level. We can connect with our audience on a deeper level and really get to know each other in a different way, in a way that's so much more meaningful, and to share these things in a way where we're actually able to like capture the attention of people.
Absolutely.
And like you said, like social media is like it's an opportunity for people to disconnect. No, most people aren't going onto social media to like deeply connect with others or to, gain a bunch of insights
Yeah.
or self improvement or whatever you want to call it. They're going there to check out.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, full transparency, like when there are
Mm-hmm.
moments when I get on there and I'm like,
Sure.
let me laugh. Like,
Yeah.
and I think this is a great point, and that just is coming to mind is kind of like this thing of how it can be fatiguing actually when we get on social media and there's so much information about like what we should be doing,
Mm-hmm.
how we should be doing it, and why. Like, I mean, like the phrase that comes to mind is like, well, your life sucks because you aren't doing
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. And like, obviously that's super dramatic. But like, I think a lot of people are kind of burnt out from
Mm-hmm.
social media and from these platforms. And so exactly like, it's like we're inviting everyone to come on one of those coffee dates with us
Mm-hmm.
by doing this
Yeah.
and to like, be part of the conversation and get to know us better and learn about like why this work is important to us and all the different faucets of it, because it's so multifaceted and there's so
Mm-hmm.
many different there's just layers to it,
Mm-hmm.
and getting to share that and connect
Yeah.
and go on this journey together is so beautiful. I'm so excited.
Me too. Yeah. And getting to explore like more of the nuance and like the gray area,
Mm,
like I think too, on the platforms that were provided, there's not much room for that. Like
mm,
you're there to give like a very black or white message. And there's a reason for that too, because you're like captivating someone's attention by saying something that's so extreme.
yeah.
So there's value in that if you're trying to like play with the algorithm. So this space I think will be so nice to be able to actually like get into the nuance and the gray area and like really dive into these things like we can't in
Oh,
other ways.
absolutely.
So
I love that. I love that you just said that. um, you know, the gray area is not marketable.
it's
And
not.
no, and you
It's
know
not.
what? My therapist used to say this to me when I was like 21, going to therapy in college, like just so desperate for like an absolution, like something
Mm-hmm.
absolute, like I needed something concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And she said to me one day, she was like, life does not happen in black and white. Like life is lived in the gray area.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, you know what I said to my therapist when she said that to me? She said, I don't even look good in gray. And I was like, so now all the time I like carry that. I'm like, I don't even look good in gray.
Yeah.
I love gray, but
Yeah.
personally, I totally understand like, the idea. And it made me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna get into the gray.
Yeah. Which I think people are craving. Like, I think there's over the last like 6 months, and we've talked about this, and I've seen people talk about this on social media too, of like there's this desire and like a craving for more depth and more nuance and more gray area
Yeah.
instead of everything just being so black and white and like just getting your quick fix of information or the dopamine hit that social media can give you. So I think this is going to like tap into our personal desires that we're like really leaning into and also the desires of others.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think that really is it, like
Mm-hmm.
we're at a point culturally
Mm-hmm.
where we need so much more than to, continue. Like I was listening to someone talk the other day about how like influencer or like
Mm-hmm.
Instagrammable, like curated moments are kind of dying out because
Mm-hmm.
it's not reality.
Yeah.
And I think, the older we all get,
Mm-hmm.
the more we actually realize and the more we ground into like maybe the like, yes, social media is super powerful and amazing and it's given us so much. Like I've learned so much, and I think we
Mm-hmm.
all can say like it serves a purpose, and it's fatiguing
Mm-hmm.
and it's damaging. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really, really hard to like love your life and to like water your own grass when you're constantly being bombarded by like,
Mm-hmm.
other people's
Yeah.
Like, but look at how good, and you and I we talked about this the other day, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, look at my journey, or like, look at this and how it's amazing, when it's like, right, but that's the 5 seconds you
Mm-hmm.
curated for us to see, and we don't get to see the reality a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the time of like what a growth journey looks like,
Mm-hmm.
what healing looks like, what this work looks like, what life looks like. And so getting to create a space where we get to share that and actually like dive into it and be like real and authentic and raw,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, share, of course, like our expertise and our point of view, but also
Mm-hmm.
be real and be like, hey, I'm really struggling sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
because that's reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I love that we're leaning into like our own personal calling. And I feel like it's also tapping into, like you said, like the greater cultural element of like people are craving more authenticity, uh, you know, just the raw version of life instead of something that's so curated. And so how fun that we get to do this together
I
and just
know.
like have, yeah, like, I mean, I think you already said this, like little coffee chats almost, you know, like people are just sitting in on our little coffee dates here.
Welcome to Coffee with Kayla and Alicia.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It'll be a little less unhinged than maybe our
Yeah.
real coffee dates.
Yeah.
Cut to me coming and crying. No, I'm just kidding. But am I? Is she kidding? No. But
Yeah.
what's funny is like, I think you and I have said this to each other a couple times just throughout the last 9 months, is like, if you would have told me a year ago
Mm-hmm.
that I'd be doing this,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, okay. Or I'd laugh, or I'd be like, I don't believe you. Right.
Yeah.
Just because like, background on us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a year ago, you and I weren't even really talking that much, and
Mm-mm.
not like out of, we weren't talking out
Yeah.
of, but out of just like the disconnect of life.
Yeah.
And, you know, how we go way back, guys. Like we have deep history.
Yes.
And how, you know, how just life brought us back together, and how
Mm-hmm.
beautiful
Yeah.
that is, and helping each other on this journey that, you know, is like uncertain and takes a lot of trust, and
Mm-hmm.
also takes like having people who are like in it with you, because
Mm-hmm.
we both like have tried to do this alone.
Yeah.
And I think we can both agree that that is hard.
I don't think we're meant to do it alone.
Oh my
Like,
gosh,
you
no.
know, it's just, and we could probably do a whole episode on that concept of just like how I think there's a push to do things on your own and to have the hyper independence and to be like the boss babe and blah blah blah, you know. And it's like, but does that really feel good? No.
No.
It
And
feels so good to link up with someone and like actually do this together, you know.
right. No, absolutely. And it's like also just to be seen and witnessed in your journey, I think
Yes.
is so powerful. And like to be able to witness someone and like
Mm-hmm.
be like, hey, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, I mean, we belong in community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another element of the culture that like on social media promotes a lot of individualism, and like, of course, be yourself. Like that's not what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying, but it does sometimes like promote hyper independence
Mm-hmm.
that is counterintuitive to like what we design, like
Yeah.
how we're actually like designed as humans.
Yeah.
We're communal beings.
Yeah.
And to
This is
have
how we
community.
thrive.
Yeah, exactly. It's how we thrive.
Yeah. For people who don't know, we've known each other since we were, what, five,
I think
4?
it was like 4. Yeah, your mom said 3.
Okay, well, maybe
Maybe
3.
3.
Preschool age, whatever that is,
Yeah.
maybe a little before. So we really grew up as sisters.
No, literally. We were definitely, we both come from sets of 3 girls.
Yes.
And then obviously the addition of Jason later,
Yes.
Kayla's little brother. But we were like the additional sister and each of each other's
Yes. Yeah.
three, what?
I'm not sure
I
what that
don't,
would
what
be
that's
called,
called, a
but
trip.
three siblings.
Like a throuple. What? But no, exactly. We were like we really grew up, like we did everything together.
Yeah.
And until we were literally 18 years old and moved to different cities, like
Yeah.
attached at the hip.
Yes. We were in love.
I know, literally we were in love. I say that, by the way.
Yes.
I'm like, my first relationship was with you.
That's so funny.
Are you kidding me? And arguably, depending on who you talk to, the only relationship I've ever had was with you, until more recently. But no, exactly. We grew up so close together, doing everything together, growing through so much together. And then life sort of took us separate ways. And then there was like that awkward, I always say like your early 20s is like the middle school of life. So
yes, oh my gosh.
it really is. It's like going through middle school again. And I think that it was really hard for me to like reconnect in that phase. And so, there was like some years spent apart.
Yeah. I think we would see each other like once a year, once every couple years. And then, and it's funny too, like you mentioned, like it wasn't like there were hard feelings or like anything happened. It was just like we're on our separate paths, and it was nice to reconnect when we did. But also I think in those moments it was like there was a sense of like this isn't the time for us to like fully reconnect,
Yeah.
And for no particular reason either. And what's funny too, I think I've shared this with you, but maybe not. A few years ago, I had like this vision of like someday we are going to reconnect, and we can do this together. Like we can have like this business or do like these workshops or like the things that we've done together. So it's like so fun to see that unfold.
Stop, I'm gonna cry. I'm dying at that. No, you didn't tell me that. That's amazing. Oh. No, that's just so beautiful. Like I think that you've always been like really intuitive though, and like had a really clear like dreams and I think like foresight and like vision, if that makes sense. Not that like you guys, I'm not saying Kayla's like, oh, that's so Raven over here having visions. Okay, relax. But
love that reference.
Thank you. But no, like I really just think that is really beautiful. And when we did reconnect, like, so just to give context, it was August of last summer. It was our 10-year high school reunion. I know you can't tell because we're so young and beautiful. Just kidding. We look 22.
Yes, until you get up close and you see the stress in our skin.
I found my first gray hair like a few days ago. So, no. But we, it was our 10-year reunion. I did not want to go at all. I had so much resistance on going. I was like really feeling uncomfortable, just where I was at in life. And, the discomfort of like seeing your peers, I think can be, especially like, oh gosh, I don't identify with who I was in high school very much, in many ways.
Yeah.
And, so to like enter into that like space felt really like vulnerable and like sticky. And shout out to one of our dear friends who I was like, I'm not going. And he was like, no, you have to go because I can't go alone and you have to come. Showed up at my house and was like, you're coming. And I was like, I don't, what am I going to wear?
You don't have a choice.
No, literally. I like didn't even have, I like vaguely remember like not even having like an outfit on. And he was like, no, put some pants on, let's go. And I like went and I was like, okay, help me. Like, is this fine? Does this?
Yeah.
And he took me to our reunion and, obviously like we all hung out. It was good. It was lovely to reconnect and everyone, we had a good time. Everyone was chill. It was great.
For reference too, our class was like 30 something people. So there were like 12 people there.
Yeah. There was 12 of us, 12 standing. We had the tiniest class because we're from a pretty tiny town. Yes. And so it was very intimate.
Very intimate.
A very intimate gathering. But the real like reconnection happened via text message for you and I.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember necessarily like what was said other than like
on the way home, because we left the tavern. We left quite late, and I told Adam, I was like, I think I'm going to text Alicia. And I forget what I said, but he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yes,
Adam.
I'm sure.
Oh my God, talking you out.
No, because I think he was like, I think he thought what I was
Nervous.
going to say was going to be like offensive in some way. Cause I think ultimately what I said was like, the essence was like, hey, it's kind of weird that we like live in the same town and like we just like don't talk, we don't see each other, like,
Yeah.
and I would love to reconnect. Like, I think it would be amazing. And
Yes.
so anyway, I mean, ultimately it's good to like take those risks, and it was met obviously with,
Yeah.
love and
Yeah, you know what? It was so important actually to like I'm so glad you said that because it was an opportunity for me to be really honest
Mhm.
about my own insecurities and my own like vulnerabilities. And I think ultimately like that made us closer anyway in the end
Yeah.
too. But like of just because I remember when I read your message, like I was sad because I was
Mhm.
like, God, this is so like there is like a whole history and a life and like a love and a connection that like we
Mhm.
shared, and to be like so I think isolated
Mhm.
from this like sisterhood, right? And
Mhm.
like this connection that we have and
Yeah.
just the beauty of it. And to get to just be like, because it's so easy to get in our heads and be like, oh my God, like maybe she is mad at me. Maybe she doesn't like me. Maybe she's judging me. Maybe,
Mhm.
like we can spin stories
Yes.
all day.
Yeah.
And to just be like so honest and upfront with each other about it and
Yeah.
be able to just witness and then like also strip that away and be like, okay, but like let's
Mhm.
let's like one, is this true or is it your brain? And it turns out mostly our brains,
Yeah.
right? And then like also be able to just be like, all right, so like let's move forward from here.
Yeah.
And it all started with like, do you want to have coffee next week? And then it was like, okay, well, do you want to have coffee again next week? The week after we first had coffee. And then it
Mhm.
was like, well, we could do this regularly.
Mhm.
To maybe we should plan a workshop,
Mhm.
to fast forward doing a group program together, and
Yeah.
to creating this
A
ultimately.
podcast. Yeah. Yeah. So really, truly, like when you say like, oh, what if you would have told me a year ago, like I would not have believed you.
No, literally,
Like,
not at all.
yeah.
I would have been like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, no, exactly.
It
And
was all part
so
of the divine plan. I mean, we couldn't have planned it,
we couldn't have planned it. And that's just it. It's like, it's actually really beautiful when we stop resisting,
Hmm.
like, and trying to control. I think our like the perception of things and just certain elements of life, and just surrender to like, you know what, and be honest, like to let the truth come forward, because look at where it leads.
Hmm.
So just a little nugget of an invitation, I think, for everyone, and also continually for ourselves, because I'm so grateful for how it's all unfolded.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I just can't wait to see where it
I
leads.
know. Me too.
It's beautiful.
It's very exciting. Well, before we talk about like what people can expect with the podcast, what do you want people to know about you?
Oh my God. Wow.
What little tidbits?
Let me just yeah. So I mean, ultimately, like just a little bit of background on like this work for me and how I kind of ended up here.
Mhm.
So after high school, I went to acting school in Los Angeles. I'm a very colorful person. And um
You're like right in your element right now. I think this is it for you.
I was born for this. No,
Yes.
literally, actually, I love stuff like this,
Yeah.
and it's feeding a piece of me that
Yeah.
it's always going to be there. But yeah, I went to acting school, and we've kind of talked about this. That was a really interesting journey, and we can
Mm.
maybe one day we'll dive into that
We'll
more,
unpack it. Yeah.
unpack it, because it really did actually like lead me to this work at the end of the day. Had I not gone on that journey, I don't think I would have really found this
Hmm.
in the way that I did. Maybe I would have in a different way, but really like going through something so, I mean, for lack of a better word, we're going to say traumatizing.
Moderately abusive. I mean, like,
Literally
emotionally, psychologically.
psychological, emotional abuse from grown adults.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking like people in their 50s and 60s, just every day, and like really going through that and being stripped of like your identity in a lot of ways, and then also like going through so much about like unworthiness. And as someone who grew up in a enmeshed family that's really full of codependent people, I didn't have strong self-worth. And so I didn't know that though yet. I really didn't understand it. And so being confronted with that, and then like also having people call me out for it, and having people who are hyper aware and able to like really tune in on insecurities and vulnerabilities. That's sort of like what the industry kind of is and does. And having people hold up that mirror for a lot of the years, I was like, what are they talking about? Like, I could carry myself pretty confidently. And like a lot of people thought I was a super confident person, but actually I was in a lot of pain, and I really was so uncomfortable with who I was. And so fast forward, I finish acting school. I'm like doing the thing. I'm like going to auditions, and I hated it every day. Like every day I was like, I hate this. And I finally got to the point where like nothing was working. My life felt really empty and like not connected and meaningful. So I pivoted and I came back home, and I went from being on my own and independent and living life and like doing the whole thing to literally living with my mom and dad, my sister, her partner, and her at the time 2 kids, and my grandma and grandpa.
It's a big transition.
Under one roof, babe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a huge transition, and all of those triggers, all of that codependent patterning just showed up full force. And so I was kind of wrestling with that for a few years, working with my family as well, fully in family business. And my family has a lot of businesses, and always, even when we seem to consolidate, it actually hops to the next thing. So I was really in I was heavily in people pleasing and heavily in doing what I thought I needed to do to make others happy and to stay safe and to receive love. And spoilers, that was not sustainable. And what happened is I kind of like had a little, we'll call it a quarter life crisis, where I was like, okay, this isn't it. What do I do? And so I ended up transitioning out of working for my family. And I felt like going into mental health was the path. I just didn't know in what capacity. And so I was actually fully prepared to like go become a therapist. And then my own therapist was like, no. She literally was like, don't do it. Love her. Yeah. She's amazing. And she actually connected me with some of my like greatest teachers and mentors, and the people who have like really helped me go get the education that I needed, and help me like find my path, which really ultimately is like my desire, right, is to just help women, help everyone really. But like, obviously I feel a deep connection to women, especially daughters of codependent families, and enmeshment, and just adult children of codependency, to just really like go on the path of learning who you are, learning where what your lane is, and how to stay in it, and how to really just claim your sovereignty and like become an individual, so that you can actually like love from a place that's not depleted and not from fear, and actually like be in relation with the people that are important to you from a place of authenticity versus a place of like burnout. Like when I just imagine what I look like, how I came across energetically, I see like so much chaos. When I was deeply in that space and deeply in those patterns and not aware. And so that's really like what my like passion is in this work, is to just help people heal, help people be able to have healthy relationships. Because in all of that, as you can imagine, like my romantic relationships were so unhealthy.
Sure, yeah.
And I was picking partners, or I wouldn't even say picking partners. I was looking for love and connection. And for those who are listening, I'm using air quotes, love and air quote, like, nah, we'll call it that.
Yeah.
But I was looking for this like validation in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
And really what I needed was like self-love and self-validation, and to build my own worthiness. Because at the end of the day, I really hated myself. Like I really did not like who I was. And a lot of that, you know, obviously from going on this path, becoming a life coach, going to school, and then like expanding my knowledge through other things, which, you know, we will get into eventually. But, you know, learning that like that comes from within, and learning that ultimately like all of what I was doing was because I had, you know, I had an emotionally unstable environment. And like, I love my parents. They're amazing people, and we're super close. And they had kids when they were kids. And so it was their first time at life too.
Tough. Yeah.
And they had traumatic upbringings in a lot of ways. And so there was a lot of like emotional immaturity and not understanding boundaries, and there was a lot of enmeshment. And so, yeah, I just became really passionate about just helping people embrace themselves and love and work on building that like that muscle that is self-love. Because at the end of the day, right, if we don't do that, it doesn't matter what life brings us. You know, I really believe the world is a mirror. And so it's going to reflect back whatever we are carrying, whatever we feel. It's going to bring us relationships. It's going to bring us situations that are repeating that. And so, yeah, that's just kind of like the overview of my work.
The Cliff Notes version.
The Cliff Notes of all of this, and why codependency really is like, and, you know, authenticity, and just learning to really like live a life that, you know, we love. Because it's really exhausting living your life for other people.
Very, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Hopefully.
It's important work. Very
Thank
important
you.
work. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Stop. But yeah, exactly. And your work, I feel like our work, like both individually, it weaves together so beautifully. So
it does.
Please tell us all
the Cliff Notes version.
The Cliff Notes version of your story.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, after high school, I like dove right into I guess kind of like buying into the process of like, you need to know what you're doing and the direction you're going. And like the question of like, what do you want to be when you grow up, as if you get one option. Like I didn't really know another pathway, another avenue, even though so badly I wanted to take the path of like, I don't want to go to college. I don't want to choose like one path, but ultimately I chose that path. And through that process, I became really interested in addiction counseling, and went to college and started kind of exploring psychology, and at one point thought I wanted to become a therapist as well, and ultimately started with addiction counseling because it was so interesting. And at the time too, you know, a few years prior, my parents started or opened up a drug and alcohol rehab. Conveniently. So that worked out really well, because as I was going through school, ultimately I was able to start working as an addictions counselor, and started doing that about 8 years ago. So at 21, like starting a career job and thinking like, this is it. And I'm doing this. This is going to be my career. And in so many ways, I actually really loved the experience. I learned a lot personally and professionally, and also just like perspective of every human being that would walk through those doors, just recognizing like addiction does not discriminate. Like we have so many preconceived notions, I think, about mental health and addiction and all of that. And so I really gained a lot of amazing perspective and also met so many amazing people. And throughout the experience, over time, I started to transition out of counseling and more into like supervisory clinical director type roles. And so that over time again is something that like I genuinely thought that I really wanted to do. And there was a period of time that I actually really did love it and was feeling like fueled by it and inspired and passionate about like different projects and things like that that I was working on. But also, there was an element of stress if anyone listening is in the behavioral health field or any sort of, kind of like a residential type treatment center structure. It comes with a lot of stress. And so, like, you're on 24/7, like, always available. And so, it began to get pretty exhausting. I mean, burnout is very real in the behavioral health and mental health field. And during that time, 2021 is when my husband Adam and I started trying to conceive and to start a family. And after a year of trying with no successful conception, I was like, okay, so we got to look into what's going on here, do like some lab work and testing and all this stuff. And during that time, one of the nurses or the midwives that I was meeting with for just overall like period and fertility support was like, I have this health coach that I think you might really like you might really benefit from. And from the perspective of like nervous system health and stress management. And I was like, okay, I guess, I mean, sure, I could give that a shot. And the whole time, and I experienced this too in previous therapy that I participated in, was like the source of my stress, or so much of my stress was tied up in work. And um you can of course do what you can to manage your own stress response, but if the external stressor is still there, it's you can only do so much. And so 3 more years went by, and I started working on setting boundaries and adjusting things so that it worked a little bit better with my life and what I was trying to accomplish, not just externally but internally, like accomplish nervous system wise. And ultimately, and just like you mentioned too, like working for a family is a really interesting dynamic. It was such a blessing in so many ways. And there's an element of, the family dynamics, the family culture and the expectations. And even if they're perceived expectations of like, this is the lens in which I see the family dynamics and the expectations, it's still very real. And so there was an element of like, ooh, I want to do something different, but I don't know what I want to do. And I don't know how that's going to be received. And I don't want to let anyone down, and just all the thoughts, you know what I mean? And so ultimately last year, in June, actually, so as we're recording this about a year ago.
Yeah.
Um,
Crazy.
I know. Wild. Because I
Congratulations.
would not have, like, June of last year, I honestly didn't have much of a vision. I just knew I needed to do something different.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's been a year at this point of ultimately kind of like entering what feels like the biggest trust fall in my life, like just trying to figure something out. And it's been really beautiful too, because it's been an opportunity for me to like build confidence in who I am and what I have to offer, and also like really dive into what I want to bring to the world and how I want to use like my interests and my gifts and things like that to that feels fulfilling for me and that other people can benefit from. And so It's been a journey.
Yeah.
Fertility, I think, has been like such a big piece of like the nervous system work of really wanting to like create more balance. And I think it started out as fertility and like really wanting to like, I want to be able to conceive and I want to start a family. But ultimately at this point I've come to a place of like, no, but for myself and for my marriage and for the way that I engage with the world around me and to prepare my body for pregnancy and to become a mom and a grandma and like all these like
Yeah.
future oriented things, that it's like the bigger picture of you get one life on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so might as well craft it in a way that feels really good.
Yeah.
And so I'm in that place now. And it's not that the last year has been a breeze.
Right. Yes.
There's been a lot of really beautiful moments and a lot of moments that have been like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
but it's all part of this thing called life.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so beautiful. First of all, just want to say like thank you for sharing that and
Yeah.
being, like these are like vulnerable things to talk about. And I think that that's one thing that a lot of people, listening or just in the world in general, like they experience these things and there's so much like
Yeah.
hesitation we have around sharing some of it. And um to just be able to like I love that you said the trust fall, like the biggest trust fall of your life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I think we've talked about this too. It's like such a similar experience. And I think both of us in different ways have tried to control things in the past.
Yeah.
And one of my teachers said to me, because I've had this like deep desire to know, to
Mm-hmm.
know the outcome of everything, right? Like that was a big part of my work over the last few years of like, but is this right? I need to know, like, if
Mm-hmm.
this is right. Like, should I go here? Should I go there? For me, like, some of it was like, but how do I know it's right?
Yeah.
And I wanted that like definitive proof so bad.
Yeah.
And one of my teachers said to me, you just have to like surrender. You
Yep.
have to surrender to trust. And like that's actually like a theme in my human design, and we can talk about that some other time. But like is this continual lesson of learning to surrender. And I when she said that, like the visceral reaction in my body of like, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't, like I need to
Mm-hmm.
know. And she said to me, sometimes trusting and like letting go and just surrendering feels like we might die.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
she's right,
Yeah.
because a
Yeah.
lot of the time I feel like I might just die.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I can't do this. It feels like
Yeah.
actual like a threat to our safety sometimes to
Yeah.
surrender,
Mm-hmm.
and a threat to, that like sense of security.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes what's secure and sometimes what feels safe is actually causing so much harm.
Yeah.
And um, even though it's scary to
Mm-hmm.
jump off the cliff,
Mm-hmm.
I think trusting that no matter what, like at the bottom,
Yeah.
there's going to be, like I always use this analogy, but like at the bottom, there's going to be a feather bed.
Yeah.
But also, like, even if the feather bed has lessons in it,
Mm-hmm.
it's all meant, and we're
Yeah.
all like, it's all happening for us and not to us.
Yeah.
And so that's, I just think
Yeah.
I relate to just releasing, I guess, the need for control. And I think that so many people out there struggle with that, because gosh, wouldn't it be so nice to know how everything is going to go,
Mm-hmm.
but also a little boring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we could do a whole episode on like the concept of trust and surrender and
Yes,
leaning into it.
absolutely.
And like, I think it's such a beautiful opportunity to be able to just like take a step back and exhale, knowing, and this is where like the concept of having spiritual or religious beliefs or like a higher power of some sort, where it's like, I trust that there is like the perfect timing, there's a perfect plan in place. I have no idea what it is.
Right.
Like, I'm just here kind of along for the ride, also being able to like make some, of course, my own decisions and walk through this process, but also knowing like there's a plan here.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the plan is learning the lesson, right?
Yes.
Like sometimes that is the plan. And oh my gosh, one of my favorite first TikToks I ever made was I think it was Ariana Grande's voice, and she's like, the universe has a plan, and whoever's interviewing her is like, always. And she's like, sometimes it's a really, are we allowed to cuss on here?
Sure.
Okay, beautiful. But she goes, sometimes it's a really fucking gnarly plan.
Yeah.
But it still has a plan.
Yeah.
And that is one of my favorite things ever because, you know, I think as we do episodes and as we continue to get to know everyone and go on this path together, we'll get to share more of our journeys and this work and what we've learned and our insights and things. But sometimes the plan kind of sucks, is a little shitty, okay?
Yeah.
And
it's not like the most fun to walk through.
No. And I think you and I both have experienced, you know, things that are uncomfortable and have been hard, and everyone has. And sometimes we think like, what? Who, why is this part of the plan?
Yeah.
But then on the other side of it, it's like, oh, look at the medicine. Look at what I learned. Look at, if I didn't go through that, I would not be right here today with this insight, doing this work, all of these things. So, you know, the universe has a plan.
Yes.
And we're just conduits for that plan.
That's right.
Yes.
So I think for like future oriented stuff of like where this show is going, what people can expect, I think our desire to like weave in storytelling, like personal experiences, lessons that we've learned, the things that we've walked through as it relates to the different topics that we're going to talk about as well, through like mental health, emotional health, relational health, codependency, nervous system.
Yes, all of it.
Everything in between.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just getting to, we have a really amazing lineup of topics, honestly, that we've, you know, sat through and talked through together.
We have months of content.
Literally, you guys, I hope you're ready. Buckle up. We're going on a ride. But exactly, like all of those things and more, and also just whatever comes up, because we're too living life and walking through seasons, and, you know, we're both, there's so much happening, I feel like, in both of our lives in so many different ways. And then also, like you said, you know, the trust fall and all of that, and getting to go through the planned content and whatever life is giving us. And we can't wait to just share that with you guys and to continue to bring some beautiful insight your way.
Super excited.
I'm so excited.
So excited to see how it unfolds, and just bringing things very organically and authentically and just showing up. You know, this is us. You know, we're not putting on a show. We're just like showing up as our true selves.
No, that's why, listen, I asked if I could cuss because you guys, no, I'm just kidding. I'm going to do my best to not sound like I work on the 7 C's, because I was raised by wolves. And everybody just has a mouth in my family. It's really not great. But yeah, we're just going to be ourselves and I think let this unfold. And we laugh a lot. We're silly gooses.
Yes.
I can't wait to just have those moments come out. Oh my. It's going to be great. But yeah, next week's episode that we have planned for you guys. Are we ready to share what that is? Okay. So next week we're going to really just dive into like what healing actually is and like what is healing, you know?
It gets a little confusing. It can feel super abstract, and like there's a lot of, like we talked about how we started this talking about social media. Social media, I think, gives like so many different pictures of what that means, and it can feel confusing and a lot of pressure. And so we just want to kind of shed some light on that, and also just bring some clarity on what WTF is healing.
WTF is healing. Literally, that's what we have the episode
We might
titled in
call
our
it that.
notes.
Yeah.
But like, what is it?
Yeah.
And exactly, like, just giving context, and also the context of like where healing happens and how it happens, because spoiler, it looks different for everyone. And there's no, I think we live in a world that wants to give you a cookie cutter approach on how to do everything and how to be this like best version of yourself. And I'm going to be the person to tell you all right now, that's not realistic. And if only life were so simple, you know? But we're going to dive into how it's so nuanced and there is no cookie cutter approach, and just unpack all of that. And we can't wait to share that with you.
Yeah. Amazing. Anything else? I think.
I mean, okay. Our show notes say follow us on social media.
Oh yes. Yeah, we'll put in the show notes below this video, or if you're just listening to audio, you can click on the show notes below, and we'll put our social media, YouTube, all the things, our websites where you can stay connected to us. So
yes, absolutely. Give us a follow so that we can stay connected and you can get the next updated episode. What? The next episode. What is she saying? That's embarrassing. Thank you. I love you. I'm so glad we did this.
You. Yes.
And
thank you all for listening.
Thank you
and
all
we'll
for
see
listening.
you next week.
Yes. Do we need an outro one day? How is this going to go?
No.
This will be the outro.
Yeah. We could even leave this in.
We're going to leave it in. Leave it in.
Okay, take care, everyone.
Goodbye.